Hello and welcome to another episode of the Undiscovered Metric. My name is Michelle Lagrita and I work on the marketing team here out at Verity. Today we're really excited to be joined by Jeff Coleman over at Carter's. So Jeff, I'll let you take it away and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Jeff Coleman, and to kind of sum up my background, I am an analytics professional that has started their career in finance, then moved on to support operations for a telecom company, and then decided to reinvent myself and looking at the digital marketing space as a place where I saw a lot of opportunity, a lot of career road runway, and ended up now supporting the number one children's and baby apparel company in the world of Carter's, and really digging in and help them use digital marketing as well as other analytics to drive the business and get the most performance that we can get.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the introduction. So let's dive right in then. So as a well-known international brand, Carter's is of course running multi-channel advertising and marketing campaigns. So naturally you have so many metrics to focus on. So how do you cut out the noise to make sure you're generating key insights that you and your team need most?
So the way that I cut out the noise, and this is regardless of whatever business that you may be supporting, the way that you cut out the noise is simply by understanding what is the business model that you're supporting. And so really digging in, making sure you understand the business, understand what are the key metrics that you need to look at that are going to help you understand, are you successful in achieving that business objective? And then what metrics can you look at to say to help you improve performance? So for me, in this space, supporting paid media, my main key metric is return on ad spend, or ROAS. And so what we have been looking at most recently is not just any view of ROAS, but what is incremental ROAS, meaning what is our investment getting us in incremental return? And so the way that you can kind of think of it is, for any business, and I would say for most businesses, if you stop doing marketing, there is a natural level of sales and traffic that is just going to come off of brand strength. What you want to know as a marketer is, what are we getting incrementally for our investment? So that's what that IROAS kind of gives us. It gives us a true understanding of what is the incremental impact that every dollar is making on driving the business.
It's nice because I think it's easy, to focus on those positive marketing metrics, but it's easy to forget like what you lose when you actually scale it down. So I think those incremental ROAS are a great one to focus on there. So looking at the metrics that you're tracking, building up to incremental ROAS, how do you kind of marry these metrics against all the other aspects of your business to make sure that you're seeing the full picture of performance?
Yeah, so ROAS is our North Star metric, but there are so many things that go into the results of that. And so when you're talking about return on ad spend, we look at it in really two different lanes, or I would say three different lanes. Number one, how can we buy the ad or spend the money in the most cost-effective way? Meaning, how can we buy those ad assets as cheap as we can possibly can? So that is the cost side of the metric. And then the output side of the metric starts to look at, okay, we want to make sure that we are buying the ads as cost effectively as possible. We want to make sure that our targeted audience is as highly engaged with those assets as they can be. And then once they land on our site or in our stores, we want to make sure that they are as engaged from an e-com perspective. So they are converting as much as possible. They have the biggest basket size baskets as possible. So those go to our outcome engagements. So those are the three components that I kind of look at. And then from there, you can really start to dive in and really drill down into a number of other indicators that are going to help you understand the levels of ad engagement that you have, the levels of e-com conversion or store conversions that you have. What makes up that basket size? How do you start to cut this data down from this high level all the way down to the customer and looking at segmentation? So it really starts to kind of take on a life of its own the deeper you get.
Yeah, I love what you said too about not only focusing on the costs, like getting, optimizing your costs, because of course that's important, but then you equally as importantly have to make sure you're focusing on the engagement and performance as well. Because I feel like especially with some platforms, there might be whether it's for bot traffic or whatever reason, sometimes the metrics just get inflated and it's easy to kind of lose track of what the final outcome. So I know you're a big fan of cohort analysis charts. And it'd be really great to get a better understanding of why this is so important to you and the key things that you're looking for. Because, just like you mentioned, there's so many ways you can slice and dice your data. I'd love to understand how this builds up into your key metric of iROAS.
So, I mean, with every business, it all starts and ends with the customer. So, the first thing before you can even get to cohort analysis, the basic principle is just to understand who your target audience is. Who is your target customer? Who are you going after? Understanding that and having great customer insights is going to allow you to understand, how you need to talk to your customer. Where do they show up out there in the great landscape of the marketplace? And then once you do that, then it comes down to understanding once you get a customer in, doing other analysis to understand if are you really reaching your core audience, or do you need to kind of tweak who your target customer is based upon who is responding. After I think it is both a chicken and the egg, because you really want to learn who are you reaching. Then you need to understand, how do I tweak my messaging? How do I tweak my creatives? How do I tweak where I show up? If I am on the mark or off the mark for who my target audience is. So understanding that cohort analysis, understanding customer segmentation, understanding doing the homework and the due diligence to kind of do all of the customer research insights that you can ahead of time is going to really help inform how you show up and then how you assess your performance against that.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, especially like just thinking of the future of advertising, it's only getting more and more personalized. So if you're not putting the right products or even the right ads like in front of the right people at the right times, and you're probably behind your competitors. So I think it sounds like you're doing a great job of like empowering your teams with as much meaningful data as possible.
Absolutely. Like I said, everything starts and ends with the customer. That is the fuel of the business. So, as much as we can know about who our customers are, and really refreshing that on a regular basis, because um, customer behaviors change. Just like we as individuals grow, our buying patterns grow. What we find as buying motivations grow. You maybe have a different buying motivation from your first child, and now you maybe have three or four. You've got different kind of considerations from an economic standpoint. So how do we talk to you through your customer lifetime journey to make sure that we are constantly um, presenting the best voice we can to make sure that our customers understand the value of our brand, the strength of our brand, um, and how we kind of show up in the marketplace.
So then how often are you reviewing your cohort analysis results to make sure you're adjusting spend as efficiently as possible and to make sure you're kind of, keeping up with those shifts in behavior?
I would say with anything, we're in a constant test and learn mode. Um, because seasons change. What you're doing in one season, how you buy, and your buying patterns in the holiday seasons are different from your buying patterns in the heat of in the summer, or how your buying patterns are when you're in back to school mode is very different from start of the new year. So we are always testing and learning and trying to stay as relevant as we can, not from just a customer insights standpoint, but just how the market is shifting and how people's are showing up in the marketplace and how we're showing up in the marketplace. I mean, um, if there are changes in macroeconomics, well, that kind of changes the tide in the marketplace. So we always have to be in a constant test and learn mode just to make sure that we are rowing in the direction that we want to row.
So then if someone came up to you and said, hey, I'm starting to dive into cohort analyses for the first time, but I don't know where to start, what's one thing you would share with them to help get them started off on the right foot?
That's a great question, and I've gotten that asked a lot of times, and you know, it changes. The details kind of change from business to business, from industry to industry, from functional area to functional area. What I always say is everything, and I think I may have touched on this before, but everything starts and ends with the business. Understanding your business model is key. Um, Understanding what are you in the business to do? Are you in the business to is to have the highest quality of labor production as you can? Are you in the business? And that's if you're in operations, if you're in finance, what is your business? Is it to um, make sure that you have the highest level of return on your financial investments, or for us, are you in the business of making sure that um, we we produce the highest quality of children's and baby clothes that we can for our customers? And so knowing the business is critical, and everything kind of starts and ends from there. You can start to get as deep as you want into cohort analysis. You can start to use all of the various advanced AI technologies that are coming, that are now in the marketplace. But if you don't understand what makes you a success in whatever discipline that you support, then then everything else is kind of a fruitless activity. So that's what I would really say is to get you started. Understand what you're in the business for, and then understand how that shows up for your customer, whoever your customer is.
That's really great advice, especially, I know from your background, you come from many different industries. So that just makes complete sense. That's gonna, yeah, I mean, it might sound obvious to always want to, make sure you're tying everything back to the business objective, but, and I'm guilty of this, it could be so easy to get lost in the weeds when you have so much data that like sometimes you need to pull back and say like, okay, is this ultimately contributing to what the business is looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way you kind of look at it, or I try to look at it is, it, new techniques and all of those kind of come and go. But it's just basic, for us as advertisers or marketers is basic principles. Do you have the right message? Are you targeting the right customer? And do you have the quality product that they want?
So let's say you had to pick one metric to highlight that would demonstrate your impact to the wider team. What would that be? So I'm thinking like, if someone was, running really quickly into a meeting and just ask for a quick stat just to show how you're tracking, what's your go-to?
So my go-to is again the return on ad spend. And the reason why that is my go-to is because it helps us it helps me communicate to our leadership, to the business, what we are getting for the dollars that we are investing in this marketing activity. And are we doing that at a profitable um, at a profitable level? So we understand how much uh, where we need to be to make sure that we're being profitable. So, for example, if I'm spending $1 to make 50 cents, that doesn't put me in a good position. If I'm spending $1 to make $6, then that is a phenomenal position for me to be in, and one that I can quickly convey to the leadership, to the business. Hey, we're doing what we need to be doing with the investment that we're given. Now, not every tactic that we invest in is meant to provide an immediate return on revenue, or immediate revenue return. And so there are other metrics that we would look at a tactical level. But if you say from a high level, from a overall portfolio of media investment, from our overall portfolio level, I want to make sure that I am giving the highest profitable return on that investment as I can.
That makes perfect sense. And to your point, there are those metrics that are a bit softer, have more of a longer term value, like more, maybe more in the brand awareness space, but that just makes so much sense. And when you focus on those ROAS, that I find that can really help identify different areas to optimize when things maybe aren't performing as expected as well.
Absolutely. So it helps us with understanding how do we manage the portfolio? What tactics do we lean in and we scale into? What tactics do we pull back from? Um, how do we offset from a portfolio perspective if we've got tactics that are just simply there to and they have a non-revenue component of brand awareness, or I would say an immediate revenue component of, hey, we just want to have brand awareness. We want to increase top of mind. How do we make sure we balance that with things that are going to produce us, going to have some phenomenal returns on our investment, so that from a portfolio perspective, it is all working together to produce a profitable outcome.
So how is, just the evolution of technology changing the way that you and your team deal with reporting? So, I know we discussed quite a few different metrics. And I guess, how does technology maybe help you marry those together just to get the clearest possible view of your performance?
Technology is always changing for us. And in some ways, it has given us a lot more ability to scale, as we look at some of the AI technologies that has helped us do a lot more advanced analytics in the past, and scale that at ways that could do that for several individuals, where it might have taken one individual, months to kind of come up with an algorithm. Now technology has us where we can use AI platforms to really scale out that. So that's from kind of a workload standpoint. And then there are other technological advances that have caused us to kind of reassess the way that the way that we are able to assess our performance. One of the key things that has happened is, as we have become a more privacy conscious digital society, it has really reduced the number of data points that we once could get a clear view of. It has now removed a lot of those data points. So one of the things that we've had to do is pivot from less of a direct attribution to more of an indirect or incrementality lens on attribution, because we don't have the same direct data points that we used to have. So technology has changed the landscape, and how we can scale up our workload, but also it has changed the way that we overall assess performance and look at new ways to make sure that we are getting the most we are maximizing the performance of our marketing investment.
That's something that every company, every department, no matter what market you're in, that's challenges that everyone is dealing with. So I'm sure that's great advice for anyone listening here. Um, and then finally, our last question. So what are your go-to resources for keeping on top of industry news or data trends or anything else?
I think one of the cool things that is happening as you talk about technology is that, the proliferation of social media has really democratized the information space. It is really, um, uh, giving you so many options of where to go to look for new types of ideas. And one of the things I like to do is just kind of look and see who's out there in spaces where it's not necessarily in the space that I support, but where I can get new ideas and say, hey, here's what's going on in the fintech area. They're solving issues that, kind of sort of sound like what I am looking at in certain realms. So how do you kind of translate, and how do things that people are doing in places that aren't uh, just like you, how do you translate those and pick up nuggets that you ordinarily wouldn't pick up just kind of playing in your own sandbox? But at the end of the day, what I try not to do is get too bogged down in that, because like I say, I like to keep it as simple as possible. As simple as possible, as much as possible. So just really saying, out of all of the noise, how do I make sure that, at the end of the day, what am I, is what I am, is the information I'm taking in helping me with that business model question again. And I'll keep harping on that, because that really is the be all and end all of how I stay focused and grounded in the noise and the clutter of all the information that exists out there. Um, is really coming back to the business model. Is there a new idea? Is there a new way of looking at things that will help me solve the business questions that I am trying to solve? And so there are so many ways to kind of get at that, but that's what I kind of keep coming back to.
I love that because I myself have always been in the B2B marketing space, but I used to always have this coworker who'd always say, everything that's worked in B2B, it's probably been successful in B2C first. So that kind of taught me to see something, maybe if there's a campaign or an optimization strategy or something that, isn't in my exact realm of marketing, it doesn't mean I can't learn from it down the road. Or so that's great advice to end this on.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for having me, and hope that some of this can be valuable to anyone out there listening in the space, wherever you are, finance, marketing, or just starting up your own company.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.